I'm the Thesterninator. Welcome to the channel. In the realm of mascot horror, everyone wants to dethrone the king. Take Five Nights at Freddy's down from its pedestal as the king of mascot horror and animatronic mayhem.
Michael, don't leave me here.
But then there are those who redefine and recontextualize the structure of these type of games. I'm talking about Garten of Banban. Garten of Banban at the surface seems like a very simple game with very simple characters, almost like something that you yourself could make on your computer. But then you dig into the story elements and things that build this entire concept. The Euphoric Brothers, who are the developers of this game, did a lot of work on the back end, structuring out this mass lore, as well as making the characters seem friendly and soft and huggable, while infusing them, figuratively and literally, with this darker element. It's something that really grabs you and pulls you in. Once you get past the fun sunshine and smiles, you find that there is a dark story here. So, all that said, as well as dozens of comments across multiple videos asking me to do this exact premise, let's hop right on into Garten of Banban as Pokemon. Hi, I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me... Welcome to the channel. While you're here, don't forget to drop down below, like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff that makes me and YouTube happy, and let's hop right into today's video. The Opala bird is one of the first enemies that we encounter in-game. We actually get a couple of hints to this creature prior to actually even facing off against it. It pops up throughout corners, and we see references to it in playroom areas, gathering eggs so that we can move on throughout the levels. But as we encounter it, we find that it is very different from the rest of the ones that we see. So many of the characters that we find can strategize, have vocals, are able to talk and communicate with you, but the Opala bird is just kind of a bird, a predatory bird. I mean, you look at that thing and tell me it doesn't scream danger. So I wanted to capture that idea with it, making it kind of dull, kind of dumb, if I can say that, and make it feel kind of simple of a character. So I went in and was looking at kind of the structure of the Opala bird, and realize it's very simple, very, very, very one-dimensional in appearance. And that ends up being kind of the case for many of the characters. They're very simplified, so you have to add on aspects to them. Very different from some of the other videos that I've done where we want to slim down the graphical design of a character into something that fits Pokemon. These ones, you actually have to amp up just a little bit. One thing that I noticed were the handprints all over the Opala bird. I went in, looked at the diagrams and decisions made for how the character was designed, and found these handprints all over. I decided that handprints in a bird really remind me of the hand-drawn turkeys that I think many of us made back in kindergarten, so I wanted to bring that into effect here as well. I threw hands on this thing wherever I could, and I feel like it works. Brings in a couple different aspects that feel like they allow this character to have just a bit more personality than it could have. So I threw hands on the wings. I made the wings kind of a wraparound shape, very similar to what we see in the actual character. Put one right on the top of the back, put one on the top of the head-ish with those finger kind of popping out shapes, as well as on the eyes. Again, adding a lot of stuff to what was the initial concept for the character, but hopefully giving it just a little bit of texture so that it feels like a Pokemon and doesn't take away from it feeling like a Garten of Banban character. It was a ton of fun and very different shapes to work with, going very simple, using, rather than, you know, hard and architectural shapes, using circle with thing coming out of it, throw beak on, that's bird, and it was fun. I feel like it fits the character. So this is Orplume, the dodo Pokemon. Yes, I based it off of a dodo bird. I made it a flying normal type, flying not so much for its ability to fly, which it doesn't get until later in game, but mainly for those attacks. Next up is a design favorite of mine, that being Jumbo Josh, who we actually get to experience at the end of the first chapter of Garten of Banban. We don't get to see a lot of him until chapter 2, where we get to encounter his dead body at the end of the lift. But a very fun character who's popped up multiple times and is actually a huge part of some of the later chapters. No pun intended. But I wanted to play with this character, and again, being very simple, I wanted to add some aspects that make it feel like a fighter. That's kind of his whole deal. He's the muscle of the group. So I went in and gave him some shapes that kind of break up the structure of the character, giving him these like padded elbow type of looks, as well as these massive fists just for slamming around. I picture in movement and animation of this character, he's able to whip those huge fists all over, just causing tremendous damage, even with those wrecking ball style elbow pads. I also looked at different Pokemon for examples on this, like Hariyama and Meditite, Medicham, and looked at some of the aspects that make those characters, who would be pretty simple, have just a little bit more texture and context to them. So I threw some aspects like the circles on the knees, the line across the stomach to mimic a belt or a separation between the top and bottom half, and also segmented up the arms a little bit. While playing with that, I decided to go in and add just a little bit more context as well to some of the arm elements, just to give them a little bit more breakup from the rest of the body, but I believe we'll see that in the final render, not so much in the drawing process. So it was interesting. Definitely a character that I played with a lot, even after the final video, just adding, removing stuff, looking at what should be there, what shouldn't be there, and that ended up being the struggle of this entire video, was what's too much, what's not enough, what adds personality, and what takes away what little personality the initial designs already have. So yeah, a lot of fun, but also a big struggle. It's one of the reasons that I kind of held off on doing Garten of Banban, was because I knew that it was going to be a massive challenge for such iconic characters to be changed so drastically when there's already not a ton going on there that differentiate them from a very simple cookie cutout style characters. So this is Jumbral. Jumbral is the blockade Pokemon and is a pure fighting type, as should be the case, right? I decided to give him these army type of looks to the arms, which also function almost as paint splotches. Next up is one of the more interesting characters to me, that being Stinger Flynn. Stinger Flynn is one of the few characters who actually has special abilities, those being Electrokinesis, which we can see in dream states, Dream Inducement, Telepathy, Size Control, and Control Immunity, being unable to be controlled by others. Something interesting about this character is that it is like an octopus, squid, monster, creature, jellyfish thing. And I dig that. I am super pumped about that. So I went in, decided how can we amplify some of the characteristics of Stinger Flynn into this design? Because ultimately, much like the others, he's a very simple concept. So I went in, added some shapes to give some differentiation between the various shapes that we do have, kind of this transition between the tentacles and the main body itself. I also simplified the head shape just to give it a little bit more of a differentiation between some of the other shapes that we see there, but wanted to make sure that these rounded edges and rounded corners are a staple throughout the entirety of the design. Next came color and what I wanted to do there. Color has been a big challenge for this challenge, especially since all the characters are pretty much destined to one specific color. So as we get further into the series, we get to see some other variations of color, but here he's orange. That's it. Just orange. The others are red, just blue, just green, what have you. So this one I went in, gave some texture, some pattern to, as well as played up some of the ideas of bringing in some of those yellows and darker colors, just again, to differentiate some of the shapes. It was a struggle and a challenge trying to figure out what way to do this that made sense while still sticking to what the character looks like. And here I'm hoping that I did. I feel like they have very similar silhouettes, and apart from that, there's not a lot going on. I wanted to bring in some of that psychic energy that we see where he's able to do this dream inducement, and I actually thought about Ben 10 and the dream parasite creatures and how those work. That gave me some direction to go with and allowed me to make these eyes purple, which again brings in that psychic energy. So this is Stingabell, the name coming from Sting and Abellum, which is a mental term. It's a telepathy Pokemon and is a pure psychic type for the moment. However, this is one of the few Pokemon that I decided I wanted to evolve. I wanted to give it a bigger, more grandiose design. While many of the characters throughout Garten of Banban do have larger mutated or naughty forms, this is one that I definitely felt I need to go a little bit bigger, while still really liking the direction that I went. Once I finished up the initial design, I thought, I feel like I could go closer to the actual look, while keeping some of the rules that I set for myself. So I decided to make an evolution. One of the key components to this was I wanted to bring in more closely that shape that he has for his head body thing. So I brought that in and made that kind of the main shape here. I also wanted to take some of the aspects that I had from the previous form and bring them in here, especially once I decided that this wanted to be an evolution rather than just a different form with me scrapping the previous one. I really like both, so that's why I decided to keep them. So for this one, I kept that main body shape that we see Stinger Flynn have. I brought in these little eyes that kind of go across the bottom to again, amplify the idea of that single eye by mirroring it with these other, even more simplified eye type shapes. Also allows me to bring in some more detail to the psychic type abilities that he has, while giving him these like orbs that kind of move and change across the body. I feel like that really adds to the hypnosis type feel. I also thought that how he's able to induce himself into other people's dreams and induce dreams in others himself works almost as like a mental poison. So I decided to make him a poison type, which allowed me to bring in some of these spikes. It really works, and I feel like it's a lot of fun. While I'm sure that there are aspects of it that may work better for other designs or may take away from the actual concept of Stinger Flynn, I ended up deciding that I just wanted to make something that I was happy with and something that I felt was fun. Plus, it looks like a pumpkin, so there's points there too. But ultimately, I really enjoy this design. I think it's a lot of fun, and while I do think that it may steer away from the initial concept, I have to make something that I'm really happy with as well. So here we have this new evolution. This is Kingellum, the name coming from King, Jelly like jellyfish, and Cerebellum, the telepathy Pokemon, and is now a poison and psychic type, and I feel like it makes sense as an evolution. Hi, quick sec. I want to take a moment to talk about today's sponsor, that being Huion. They develop tablets, pens, and other accessories that help you and me, as creatives, draw and get projects done. All the videos that you see that I worked on are done so on a Huion tablet, so you know that it's good quality. And right now, if you drop down into the description below, I have a link where you can go and purchase some Huion stuff of your own. I don't like to talk about stuff that I don't have full faith in. And over the years that I've been doing drawings, videos, digital design, graphic design, all that stuff, it's been on a Huion tablet. I really love the product, and I think you will too. Now let's get back to the video. Next up is Banban himself. Banban is a friend of the protagonist throughout most of the series and has several abilities, including super strength and a fairly high intelligence, able to strategize and help out the player in ways that most human players would in other games, and then going above and beyond that in some instances. For the design, I wanted something that felt friendly yet off-putting, which tends to be kind of the case for most of these characters, but Banban specifically. Banban, while looking pretty much happy-go-lucky, fun, friendly, you know that based on the premise of how these games work, that there is something beyond that exterior. There is a potential for great darkness, great evil there, so I wanted to infuse that into the concept. Make him feel a little bit creepy, but ultimately just a friendly, happy guy. So I went into the design playing with that. I actually thought about Gengar for quite a bit, and how Gengar kind of fills a lot of the same design elements as this character, from the big smiling grin to the big eyes, the pointed ears, and being singularly colored. But I wanted to do something just a little bit different here. I wanted him to feel more, put a little bit more emphasis into some of the characteristics, make him have some dexterity to the design elements that we bring in. So I thought about this wrestling unitard. I don't know why, it felt very on brand and felt very simple. It's a very simple concept, very simple uniform that these people wear, and it allowed me to really throw in some line work and break up some of the shapes and colors that we have for the character. I knew where I wanted to go with the design, I knew where I wanted to go with the overall vibe of Banban, but introducing this secondary aspect I feel like allowed me a little bit more freedom in what I'm going with here. While I do in these challenges want to keep to kind of what we have for the reference, I do have to throw in every now and then some new aspects just to give it a little bit more oomph, allow it to feel more Pokemon and less like it's just a version of that character drawn in the Pokemon style. That's not what I'm trying to do. I want to make it feel like a Pokemon. Sometimes that means bringing in more areas of inspiration, drawing on aspects of the character which may be hidden or smaller to their personality, and bring those in different ways. One of those was kind of removing the party hats. They felt a little bit too colorful for this type of design and felt like they would draw away attention from the face and the body shape. So I ended up slimming down some aspects, adding on to others. It very much made me think throughout the whole process of my Elden Ring series, where I turned Elden Ring characters into Pokemon, and how that was the exact opposite. Taking these hyper complex characters and slimming them down design-wise, here I had to do the opposite. I had to take these very slimmed down characters and try to figure out what is adding too much and what's not adding enough to make them feel like a Pokemon. And so here we have Brabrawn. Brabrawn is the renegade Pokemon, given that he kind of stands apart from the rest. And for the shiny, I wanted to go with something that referenced Banbaleena. So we have this even spookier white version. Which of these characters was your favorite? Who would you add to your team? If you want to see high-res images of Pokemon just like these, as well as ones from other videos, don't forget to check out the Patreon. You can also head over to my Ko-fi, which is down in the description below, where you can purchase designs like these from my catalog of sold-off designs. You can also become a YouTube member for just $3 a month and get exclusive and early access to videos, as well as, and I say this every time, join our Discord. It's down in the description. We have a very quick growing community of people, several of which I will admit have been taken to the kindergarten. We haven't heard anything from them, but we assume that they're safe. We assume that they're well. All that said, it sounds like you know where to find me, and I'll catch you in the next one.
A shout out to all of our supporters across our various platforms. You make these videos possible, so it is your fault. A big thanks to Sky, Yu Asakaki, Lexrit, Drake Null, Jeremy Sunday, Cam Norshooter, Justin Greenier, Serencinos, Daniel, Jalen Cat, Soren Frost, Sticks, in Spanish, Dan Bush, James Pruitt, and Kasha Supporter. And an extra big thankies from Stankies to our YouTube members. May you live long. May you live so very long that the world crumbles around you. Buildings fall and forests reclaim the land that was once and shall forever thereafter remain theirs. Anyway, thanks to Sigil Sealed, Rejuno, Zed Ravenmore, Some Misters, Arctic Rose Creations, Jalen Cat, Crimble McSwizzle. You all keep it real now, and I will see you in your every waking nightmares.